Uncover the dark secrets of Leviticus, shocking revelations you've never heard before. Deep in the heart of a small town, hidden behind crumbling brick walls, lies a mystery that could shake the very foundation of beliefs. Leviticus, an ancient text known for its strict laws, has secrets so dark, they've even buried under layers of dust and time. People say that those who truly understand the text are changed forever. Whispers of midnight rituals, curses, and unspeakable horrors echo through the streets. Eyes dart nervously, and heavy breaths hang in the air as the townsfolk speak of shadows lurking in the corners of their past. One afternoon, the sky crackled with electricity as a storm brewed. Thunder rumbled, shaking windows and sending chills down spines. The old library, a Gothic relic at the town's edge, became a beacon for the curious. Inside, Amelia, a brave local with fire in her eyes, flipped through brittle pages, feeling the weight of centuries pressed down on her. Each word seemed to pulse with energy, revealing glimpses of strange rites that promised power but demanded sacrifice. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. What dark truths had been concealed within these sacred verses? As Amelia dove deeper, strange things began to happen. Books flew off shelves, and candle flames flickered wildly. Her heart raced with every revelation. Lines of scripture hinted at ancient bloodlines and demonic forces, weaving a tapestry of terror that wrapped around her like a coil. What if the stories were true? What if someone was watching, waiting for her to unveil the secrets they had worked so hard to keep hidden? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Amelia dug in further, her fingers trembling as she reached for the final piece of the puzzle, a fragment that spoke of an ancient curse unleashed during a lunar eclipse. Did she dare to uncover what lay ahead? The thunder cracked louder, almost in warning. The tension in the room thickened, suffocating her with dread. What was hidden in this shadowy text, and who would pay the price for knowledge that should never have been sought? As the storm raged outside, Amelia steeled herself, ready to face the unknown. Would she unlock the full power of Leviticus, or would the darkness consume her first? The air in the library grew thick and charged, sparking with potential and dread. Amelia's heart thundered in her chest, echoing the storm outside. She gripped the fragile page, and with a deep breath, she leaned closer, whispering the words aloud. Her voice seemed to blend with the howling wind, resonating with a power she couldn't comprehend. Behold, the blood of the innocent. It calls. As she spoke, the candles flickered violently, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls, twisting into shapes that made her skin crawl. Fear gripped her, but she pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity. The fragment continued to pulse with energy, almost like it had a heartbeat of its own. Suddenly, everything went dark. The candles extinguished in a gust of wind that felt like invisible hands snatching away her light. Panic surged through her veins. Hello? Is anyone there? She called, her voice shaky. Nothing but silence answered that. In that moment of darkness, something cold and malevolent brushed against her shoulder, making her gasp. She whirled around, searching for the source, but nothing was there. In her mind, images flickered of the townsfolk who had warned her, their faces twisted with fear. They were right, she thought. There's something in here. With shaky hands, she fumbled for her phone, using the light to pierce through the inky blackness. The screen illuminated a swirling dust that filled the air, catching the faintest glimmers of light. Shadows twisted and writhed, and she could have sworn she saw faces agonized, desperate, and calling out for help. Her breathing quickened. I need to go, she murmured, edging toward the door, but something gripped her heart, holding her in place. What if this revelation was the key to stopping the cycle of fear that clutched at the town? What if she could finally understand the curse? She hesitated, torn between fleeing the darkness and the urge to stay. Deep down, she felt a pull, as if a current was drawing her back to the pages of the ancient text. It called to her, tempting her with secrets that could either save or destroy. Just then, a sudden crash echoed from the back of the library, jolting her from her thoughts. Was someone else in here? Her heart raced. She spun back, light beam darting across the room, landing on a silhouette barely visible among the stacks. "Who's there?" she demanded, trying to feign bravery despite the tremor in her voice. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a gaunt young man whose eyes burned with an unnatural intensity. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice a low hiss. "Don't you know what you're asking for?" Amelia's breath hitched. "I'm just trying to understand." "I have to know." His laughter was dark, reverberating off the library walls. "Knowledge isn't what you think it is. It comes with a price. And you might not be ready to pay." She felt the floor shift under her feet, a sudden sense of vertigo washing over her. "Wait, what do you mean?" she asked, desperation clawing at her gut. Before he could answer, the ground convulsed violently, books tumbling off shelves, creating a cacophony of chaos. The storm outside roared in tandem, as if the very elements were reacting to their gathering. With fear gnawing at her heart, Amelia knew she had to decide. Would she confront this terrifying knowledge head-on, standing her ground against forces that threatened to swallow her whole? Or would she flee from the darkness, leaving behind the secrets that could change everything? As she caught her breath, the man fixed his gaze on her, his expression inscrutable. "The moment has come, Amelia. The position of power awaits." But at isn't without its curse, what did he mean? And what awaited her at the end of this terrifying unveiling? Amelia's pulse raced. The young man's words lingered in the air, heavy with foreboding and dread. The ground still trembled beneath her, a reminder of the chaos unfurling around them. Her instincts screamed for her to run, yet that same magnetic pull from the text kept her tethered to the mystery unfolding before her. Power? What kind of power? Her voice broke the silence, sharp and urgent. The gaunt figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing more of his features. His skin was pale, almost translucent. The kind that grants you access to knowledge no one dares to touch. But it comes at a cost you may not be prepared to pay. A chill swept through Amelia as she processed his chilling stare. Those eyes were no ordinary gaze, they held something ancient and terrifying. "What kind of knowledge?" "Knowledge of the blood that binds," he answered. "And of the souls that suffer because of it." Suddenly, the room seemed to deepen in shadow, enveloping them in an unnatural darkness. Shadows spiraled around the shelves, warping into grotesque shapes that clawed at her mind. She felt the weight of unseen eyes watching, judging, and waiting. "Show yourself," she shouted, her voice trembling despite her bravado. Another tremor rocked the library, and the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the horrified faces twisted in the swirling shadows. They whispered her name, their murmurs filled with pain. "Amelia! Help us!" Each voice was a thread, weaving a tale of anguish that struck her to the core. She tightened her grip on her phone, its lone light flickering like a candle flame in a storm. "What are you?" she demanded of the man, trying to mask her fear with defiance. "Merely a vessel," he responded, advancing toward her. "One who has tasted the darkness you seek. The question is, are you willing to join me in uncovering the truth?" The tempest outside howled louder, the winds matching her racing thoughts. In her gut, she felt a knot of uncertainty. What does the truth even mean? And what do you want from me? "Your willingness to sacrifice," he replied softly, his gaze locking onto hers like a vice. "To dive deeper than those before you dared. Are you ready to confront your worst fear?" Her throat tightened, memories of the townsfolk pouring back scoffing, whispers of curses, tales of blood rituals. They had warned her, terrified of the unknown that lurked within those walls. And here she stood, at the precipice of that terror. The shadows wagged like eager fingers, each one pleading for release. "What do I have to do?" For a brief moment, he smiled, and it chilled her to the bone. "Embrace the darkness. Speak the words. You will not only uncover the history of this town but also awaken those who have waited for someone like you." A scream cut through the library, rattling her composure. "Help us. Don't leave us." The cacophony erupted into a chorus of wails, each sound echoing her name, pulling at her very soul. The shadows surged closer, becoming less defined, more like tortured souls reaching out for compassion or revenge. She had to decide. Did she accept the risk of diving into the shadows to uncover the truth for herself and the town? Or would she turn back, condemning those lost souls to remain trapped forever? The young man's eyes glinted as if reading her thoughts. "Once the truth is revealed, there is no turning back. What will you choose, Amelia?" As the library shook again, a single candle reignited near her, illuminating the text she had read moments before. She realized then that there was no escaping the storm raged within and without. "Amelia," the figures whispered again, their voices more insistent, their agony palpable. "Help us." With a deep breath, she took a step toward the unknown. But just as she opened her mouth to speak the incantation, the library seemed to breathe, exhaling a gust so strong it sent her crashing to the floor. Amelia struggled to regain her balance, fear pulsing through her veins. The fate of the past and present collided in that moment. And in that swirling chaos, a new horror emerged, one that would change everything she once thought she knew. Let the calling begin. What had she just unleashed? And would she survive the transformative ordeal that awaited her? The air thickened as Amelia lay on the floor, breathless and disoriented. Shadows writhed around her, pulsating with a life of their own, a dark, relentless tide threatening to engulf her. The flicker of the candle's flame cast dancing silhouettes on the walls, and the whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. "Help us. You must listen." The voices intertwined with the howling winds outside, creating a chaotic symphony that clawed at her mind. Fear pressed in on her, wrapping around her throat like a vice. She forced herself to sit up, brushing dust and dread from her clothes, and found the gaunt man still lingering near, the remnants of her courage. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" he said softly, as if his words were ethereal tendrils reaching for her heart. "To uncover the secrets hidden in this town?" She squinted through the gloom, her resolve wavering. "No. I didn't seek this, I just wanted to know." "Want and need are often blurred in the face of power," he replied, almost serenely. He extended a pale hand toward her. "You hold the key now, Amelia. Accept it." Chills raced through her as she recalled the words embedded in the text, the incantation that could awaken the lost souls. They had called to her, drawn her in. Then a realization struck her. It was all connected, the curses, the shadows, the desperate wails of the past and present. Buried truths could entrap the living or liberate the dead. She swallowed hard, glancing around as shapes began to emerge from the darkness. Each figure bore a face that mingled fear and sorrow, their eyes reflecting back an aching loneliness. "Am I really the one to help?" she asked, almost pleading. "What could I possibly do?" "You could give voice to the voiceless," he said, leaning closer still. "You could free them or doom them forever." Another tremor shook the library, rattling books from their shelves and knocking over old sculptures. In the chaos, one ancient book landed open at her feet. The pages fluttered, and she instantly recognized a title, "The Souls of Leviticus." Her heart raced as she leaned down, the weight of the world resting on her shoulders. "Each word is a choice," the young man whispered. "Each choice alters the very fabric of this existence. Speak it, Amelia, and accept the power." As she flipped through the brittle pages, her pulse quickened with every fraught second. She hesitated, knowing the consequences might spiral beyond her understanding. But her thoughts turned to the figures, the lost souls caught in torment. Could she really turn away from them? A piercing scream suddenly cut through her musings. Amelia! You need to save us. Don't let it end here. Her heart constricted, these shadows hungered for release, and she felt their desperation like a flickering candle snuffed out too soon. Time slipped away as she settled into the gravity of her decision. She could silence them, ignore the cries, and yet, this was her chance. Fine! She shouted, surprising even herself. I'll do it. With trembling hands, she spoke the incantation, only to be dragged deeper into the swirling shadows, an unrelenting force pulling her into their collective anguish. The pain in her heart expanded, compressing everything she'd ever known into a singular moment of fright. Let the calling indeed begin. The gaunt figure exhaled, his smile widening to a predatory grin. Just then, an unexpected silence fell. The shadows stopped their swirling dance, and an intense light flared up from the open book. Amelia shielded her eyes, instinctively leaning back. The air crackled with energy, a storm contained in a single breath, then she felt it, a rush of power surging through her veins. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. With it came visions, blood, pain, and sacrifice, a history drenched in betrayal and sorrow. Amelia gasped, struggling against the tide of knowledge crashing down upon her. Embrace it. The young man urged, his voice an unyielding whisper through the storm. You're closer to understanding than you realize. And as the light flickered even brighter, Amelia could feel her very soul being pulled in different directions, a battle raging between the light of truth and the darkness of consequence. Would she emerge victorious, or would the shadows consume her? The uncertainty loomed like a predator, ready to strike. The moment she dared to uncover the truth, she triggered a revelation that felt both thrilling and sinister. Every secret came with an undeniable price, but was she ready to pay it? And somewhere in that shimmering light, an unexpected presence lingered, watching and waiting. Was it a friend or foe? Amelia's grip on reality thinned, and she could sense the moment was perilously close. Her breath hitched. What was rising, and what would it demand in return? The light enveloped Amelia, blinding her and wrestling with her very essence. She felt her pulse reverberate like a drum, echoing the frenetic energy swirling around her. As the visions cascaded in, they morphed into grotesque images of faces twisted in anguish, each one pulling her deeper into their insatiable void. Let me go! She shouted, panic rising in her throat. But her voice seemed swallowed by the storm, lost amidst the cacophony of souls clamoring for release. Do you fear the unknown? The gaunt figure taunted, his shadow now merging with her own. Haven't you longed for this revelation? For the truth? Images of betrayal flashed through her mind, a woman weeping in darkened corners, a man hanging his head in shame, children lost beneath rubble. The library blurred, morphing into a twisted rendition of the town's history, where every brick held the burden of whispers long buried. She felt the weight of their stories press down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. The shadows' cries pulsed stronger around her. Help us! Release us! Don't let despair drown us again! Shut up! She screamed, her pulse racing. But even as she protested, they yanked on her heart, each cry wrapping tighter around her, stoking her resolve. Amelia tore her gaze from the figures. I can't help you. I barely understand it myself. The memories overtook her, the sorrow entwining with her very being. A single presence clawed at the edges of her mind, something sinister lurking beneath the surface, feeding off her fear. Your doubts are weapons against you, Amelia, the gaunt man said, his voice a melody of mockery. Embrace the truth, or watch the darkness consume this town again. You are the vessel now. And something, somewhere, clicked into place. She realized this was the moment of choice, the tipping point. The price of ignorance was layered in blood, sweat, and tears. Unveiling these secrets meant trading fear for knowledge. Instinct propelled her. Then tell me how. She shouted over the deafening cries. Unleash the words, he whispered, drawing close, an infernal glimmer in his eyes. Give voice to the forsaken. In that instant, the light flared brighter, and she felt the power coiling inside her chest like a serpent waking from slumber. Without thinking, she inhaled sharply and spoke the incantation written in the before-sleep pages of the ancient tome. With the final syllable, the air shattered like glass. A cacophony erupted, an explosion of sound and color spiraled from the book, sending shockwaves rippling throughout the world around her. The shadows convulsed in a dance of surreal light, their anguished expressions morphing into relief and anguish, intermingled and raw, but at that moment, in the din, a new voice emerged strong and piercing. You foolish girl! You've opened that which should remain sealed. Amelia's heart lurched. She turned toward the gaunt figure, but he was no longer by her side. The shadows shifted, and she blinked, trying to make sense of the chaos. The once familiar library had morphed into a nightmarish landscape, drenched in swirling black and violent light. What had she unleashed? Fear surged anew, and the dark presence huddled just behind the swirling maelstrom, lurking in patient malice. Amelia, it echoed, a haunting whisper that seeped deep into her core. You cannot escape your fate. She staggered backward, realizing the shadows she once thought would liberate her were now changing. What had she called forth? The price she owed echoed, a distant bell tolling ominously in her ears. The gaunt man's voice lingered like a ghost, drifting through the chaos. You must confront the truth, child. There is no turning back. Unraveled and raw, she squared her shoulders. More than just shadows loomed ahead, this was her reckoning. But as clarity pierced the darkness, a new fear emerged. Was the truth she sought truly worth the price, or had she invited her own demise? And as the shadows closed in, a figure detached from the tumult, its eyes gleaming with ancient knowledge and unresolved wrath. Who was this new presence, and what part did they play in the calamity unraveling before her? Amelia held her breath. The weight of the darkness pressed close, and she had a mere instant to decide fight or flight. The shadows twisted and writhed, coiling closer around her, a living tapestry of despair and dread. The figure that had emerged from the chaos stood tall, shrouded in whispers of smoke and crimson light, a ghostly reflection of the nightmares that danced in Amelia's mind. She squinted against the disorienting world around her, desperately trying to make sense of it all. Who are you? She demanded, her voice trembling as she fought against the urge to flee. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face that seemed to flicker between familiarity and alienation. I am the keeper of the truths buried here, the guardian of secrets too powerful for the likes of you, it intoned, its voice smooth yet laced with venom. Amelia's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing her fear. Why did you come? What do you want from me? The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the storm of shadows. You released the echo, child. Now the darkness is hungry. It seeks a host, and you invited it in. A cold sweat broke out across her skin. She didn't just feel fear, she felt regret, thick and sticky in her throat. What had she done? The chant surged forward in her memory, each word a weighty anchor dragging her down. No. She whispered, the reality of her actions hitting her like a punch to the gut. I didn't mean to summon anything. I just wanted to help. Help? The figure mocked, its eyes narrowing like a predator sizing up its prey. You cannot save that which is already doomed. They are bound to this realm of terror, just as you now are. You are entwined with their fate. As it spoke, the shadows thickened around her, stretching sinister arms toward her, seeking to pull her into their grasp. Panic gripped her as their icy fingers brushed against her skin. Just then, a spark ignited within Amelia, a glimmer of purpose that burned brighter than the encroaching darkness. No! She shouted, her voice rippling with newfound strength. I want to let you take me. I'm not afraid of you. Good, the figure replied, its voice low and dripping with anticipation. Fear will only feed the chaos. Embrace your anger. It will guide you. She took a step forward, heart racing, defiance roaring in her chest. Fueled by the whirlwind of emotions, she could feel the power of the shadows working in tandem with her will. If I must face what is coming, then I will. You will not claim me as your vessel. The figure recoiled slightly, surprise etched on its face, before a sinister smile crept across its lips. Ah, a spark of rebellion. But know this, the truth is not as liberating as you believe. What you uncover may shatter your reality. The shadows solidified, swirling into terrifying faces, each one reflecting a part of her own inner turmoil: doubt, despair, betrayal. Yet, among them, she saw flickers of light as if a glimmer of hope dared to breach the treachery of the night. Then let the truth come, Amelia challenged, whatever it is, I can face it. In that case the figure leaned closer, the air thick with foreboding. Prepare yourself, for what you unearth next will be the reckoning of everything you hold dear. As it finished, an ominous silence enveloped the room, and the shadows shifted, revealing a new path, one that led deeper into the unknown. The truth would be unveiled, and with it, the risk of losing everything she loved. With a stealing breath, Amelia stepped toward the swirling darkness, ready to confront the secrets waiting in the abyss. What terrifying truth awaited her on the other side? Would she find the strength to change her destiny, or had she already sealed her fate? As the air crackled in anticipation, Amelia realized she hadn't just invited the darkness in, she had awakened it. Would she rise to meet it, or would she fall into despair? The darkness whispered around Amelia, pulling her deeper into its folds. She sensed the weight of the figures lurking just beyond the edge of her perception, each one a pang of guilt, a shadow of a past decision. They lunged at her, but she stood tall, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. Show me. Amelia's voice was steady, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling about her. Whatever darkness you hold, bring it forward. At her command, the air crackled. For a moment, everything paused, and then the shadows twisted violently, as if reluctantly obeying her call. Faces emerged, distorted by agony and confusion, familiar faces. Her chest tightened, a lump rising in her throat. There they were, friends, family, people she'd lost along the way. Each one carried a story, a burden that made her heart ache. Why? She screamed, her voice resonating in the gloom. Why are they here? Your heart bears the weight of their sorrow, the figure replied, its tone dripping with malice. You cannot escape your connection to them. Their darkness fuels your power now. Amelia's mind raced. She thought of her brother, lost to addiction, and her best friend, gone too soon in that terrible accident. A sob threatened to escape her lips, but she swallowed it down. She wouldn't let the grief consume her. No, she said, firming her resolve. They were lost, but that doesn't mean I am. I can break this cycle. The shadows roared in response, an angry thrumming in the air that sent shivers down her spine. It wasn't just a display of fury, it was a reflection of her own doubts. She felt the grip of despair around her soul, tugging, clawing, begging her to surrender, but then, between the swirling darkness, a small light flickered, a memory of laughter shared with those she lost. She focused on it, letting it grow. The warmth enveloped her, pulsing with an energy that seemed to push back against the oppressive shadows. Hope is not dead, she declared, her voice soaring over the darkness. It's alive in me, and I refuse to let it go. With each word, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in protest. Amelia felt an energy surge through her, lifting her higher, brightening the room. She took a step into the swirling light, ready to confront the ties that bound her. Face me, she commanded. I will not hide anymore. The figure, now seething with rage, loomed closer, its features melting into grotesque shapes. You think you can confront the echoes of your past? The sacrifices made to shield your heart? You are mistaken. The truth will crush you. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, forming a wall of despair around her, tightening like a noose. Amelia gasped, feeling the suffocating presence of regret and guilt closing in. But deep within, her resolve ignited into a flame. I'd rather fight for my truth than succumb to your lies. She raised her arms, allowing the light from within to burst forth, creating a shield against the darkness. It felt empowering, freeing. But would it be enough? As beams of light shot through the gloom, illuminating the twisted forms around her, she heard the shrieks of the shadows blend into desperate cries for help. They weren't just there to torment her, they were a reflection of her pain, her regrets, her own insatiable fear of failure and loss. Amelia's heart raced. Would she dissolve into despair or break the cycle? Could the light truly overcome the darkness? In this whirlwind of emotions, she realized the truth was not merely to confront the shadows, but to embrace her memories, painful as they were, and learn to forgive herself in them. Just as she felt a moment of clarity, the figure surged forward, determined to absorb her light. Embrace the shadows, Amelia. You cannot escape them. But this time, she wouldn't back down. Breathing deeply, she struggled to hold her ground. Not today. She shouted, as the struggle erupted around her. Would she have the strength to win this impending battle, or would she be consumed by the very spirits she tried to save? The answer hung heavy in the air, as darkness and light clashed violently. The moment her light erupted, the shadows howled. They recoiled, twisting away in frenzied desperation, yet the darkness only grew denser, heavier. Amelia felt their icy fingers skimming her skin, pulling her closer to the abyss. Her heart thundered in her chest, feeling like a pinned butterfly. You're weak, the figure bellowed, malignancy dripping from its voice. You think you can shine in this realm of torment? You're mistaken. Your pain is your foundation. With each word, Amelia felt the weight of the past press harder, the faces from her memories swirling with renewed urgency. They wrenched at her like lost souls, desperate for acknowledgement. Her brother's voice echoed in her mind, filled with regret. You gave up on me. No. She cried, fighting against the sting of truth. You chose that path, not me. I loved you, but I can't carry that burden. She screamed out her joy and grief, turning them into arrows directed towards the shadows. The light responded, darting with ferocity, carving out space in the agonizing darkness. I won't bear this guilt any longer. The darkness ripped in half, split open by her words, like a curtain revealing a hidden stage. She dashed through the fissure, leaping into the light like a soldier diving into battle. The warmth flooded her senses, tending to her wounds, empowering her resolve, but the figure shrieked, becoming a thrashing mass of ominous energy. You think you've won? It spat venomously. You've merely delayed the inevitable. They are bound to you, just as you are bound to them. This is only the beginning. Amelia could feel it, an unsettling certainty that the shadows, although repelled for now, would return stronger, fiercer. The air twitched with tension, and she felt the ground beneath her tremble, echoing with her doubts. But amid the chaos, something clicked inside her head. Shadows fed off despair, but light radiated from love and hope. She thought of her brother again, not in pain, but laughing, the sunlight bouncing off his mischievous grin. The memory glimmered bright, illuminating her path. You're right, she yelled to the figure, embracing her memories with open arms. They are bound to me. But I define that bond. From now on, it's love that fuels me, not guilt. The figure bent, twisting as her declaration rattled its form, bones creaking in protest. The shadows shrieked, pulsating in a chaotic dance, threatening to overwhelm her once more. But Amelia held the warmth of fond memories close, wrapping them around her like an invisibly woven cloak. With renewed strength, she stepped forward. I choose to forgive you and myself. She shouted. The walls quivered. She glanced to the faces drifting within the dark. You are not my prison. A surge of light exploded from her core, cascading outward, striking the figure down. The shadows shrank back, like a tide retreating from the shore, howling in defeat. But just as she dared to hope, a malevolent laughter filled the air, sending chills racing down her spine. Foolish girl, the figure jeered, reforming, even more monstrous now. Love will not save you. You can never outrun your truth. Suddenly, the ground trembled more violently. The cavern felt as if it were collapsing around her. A new storm formed, shadows coalescing into an ominous mass behind the figure, threatening to overwhelm everything she'd just achieved. Amelia's breath quickened. Her momentary victory stood precarious in the face of the rising tempest. She locked eyes with the figure, feeling her heart pound in her ears. Could she continue to resist? Or was the truth of her past about to shift in a way she couldn't predict? As the whirlwind of darkness loomed, breathing down her neck, all she could think was how desperately she needed answers and time was running out. Would she be able to face her shadows once and for all, or would everything she fought for be swept away in an unforgiving tide? The shadows surged forward, a grotesque wave of swirling darkness threatening to engulf her. Amelia's stomach dropped as she realized the figure was no longer just a puppet of the dark, it was a storm incarnate, fueled by her fears and regrets. The air around her thickened, and for an instant, she lost her breath, tied down by the weight of her memories. "Face it," the figure screamed, its robed form writhing like smoke. "You are nothing without your past. Embrace your failure." "No!" Amelia shouted, finding a spark of defiance. The cavern around her trembled, a reminder that this was a battle not just of strength, but of conviction. She couldn't let the shadows redefine her story. With every ounce of willpower, she summoned the light that flickered within her. It didn't just illuminate the shadows, it ignited a fire that spread through her veins, warm and alive. "My past does not determine my future," she yelled, clenching her fists. The light intensified, cascading outward in vibrant waves, pushing back the dark tide. The echoes of laughter faded slightly, but the turmoil was far from over. She could feel her heartbeat match the rhythm of the collapsing cavern, quickening, racing, fighting for survival. The figure loomed larger, each spectral finger elongating like tendrils toward her as the shadows expanded in a desperate attempt to swallow her whole. "Without our pain, who are we?" it crooned, the voice sickly sweet yet dripping with malice. Amelia's mind raced. Was the figure right? What if all she was without her guilt was nothing? Maybe that's true. She hesitated for a fleeting moment, grappling with the words. Memories of her brother blurred, turning from joy to anguish in her mind. But I won't live in that space anymore. Suddenly, a stark realization broke through. The pain was part of her, but the light was hers to wield. Time fell still, the crushing weight of despair taunting her now felt like a different kind of freedom. "You're right. But I don't have to be defined by you." The winds roared with fury, shadows howling as the figure twisted in anger. A crack ran through the cavern's walls. "Your light will extinguish. Your joy is an illusion." It lunged forward, but Amelia stood her ground. Gathering everything she had, she closed her eyes and thought of that moment, the last sunny afternoon with her brother, laughter echoing down sunlit streets, the warmth of shared dreams. "Love is stronger than guilt," she declared fiercely, allowing the memories to infuse her light. The burst that followed radiated intensity like the sun breaking through storm clouds, illuminating not just the cavern but her heart as well. For the first time, the figure hesitated, shadows recoiling as if burned by the brightness. "No. This can't be." But Amelia wasn't finished. "I choose to rise. I choose hope." With each word, the light expanded, pushing the dark further and further back. Just as it seemed the shadows would vanish completely, a final surge crashed through, distorting the cavern. The figure morphed into a monstrous maw, teeth gnashing and eyes blazing with fury, roaring an ancient incantation. "You will regret this." It screamed, a promise mingled with a threat. With her heart racing, Amelia understood that this fight was far from over. The shadows may retreat, but they would return, and they would be stronger. She could feel the echoes of fear hovering just under the surface, waiting for an opportunity to creep back into her life. Would her light be enough to face them again? What would it cost her to continue this battle? As the darkness writhed in the distance, she knew one thing for certain: the true fight was just beginning, and she had to be ready for whatever was about to come. The darkness churned, a tempest swirling around Amelia, testing every shred of her courage. She took a deep breath, letting the warmth of her memories guide her. This ends now, she murmured to herself, determination flooding her veins. The figure loomed larger, eyes blazing with a furious light. It lunged, shadows coiling around it like a serpent. You cannot extinguish what you've awakened. It hissed, a twisted grin revealing sharp teeth. Every word echoed with a darkness that chilled her to the bone. Amelia closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of energy deep within her. It was raw, electric, and full of life. I want to be your prisoner. She shouted, anger surging through her. She opened her eyes, fierce and bright, ready to face the storm. The figure lunged again, but this time, instead of fleeing, she held her ground. I am not afraid of you, she declared. With every ounce of strength, she channeled the light inside her, feeling it connect not just to her own pain but the collective pain of those she loved. I acknowledge you, but I will not let you define me. The cavern trembled as the shadows recoiled, the figure's fury evident as it twisted and contorted, desperate to regain control. You cannot cast me out, it screamed. You think this is victory? You'll pay the price. Maybe I will, Amelia retorted, heart racing, but I will do it on my own terms. I choose to fight, not for power, but for love. She raised her hands high, inviting every glimmer of light to pour from her soul. The shadows shrieked, thrashing in a frenzy, but she pressed on. The light erupted, flooding the room in a blaze of shimmering brilliance, the kind that spoke of hope, redemption, and healing. The shadows writhed in agony, the faces within them howling in protest as they were pulled into the illumination. Memories blurred, weaving a tapestry of longing and loss, yet hope coursed through each beat of her heart. Feel the truth, she cried, her voice a battle cry. The surreal light enveloped her, forming a shield against the encroaching darkness, their screams drowned beneath the depth of her resolve. You don't own me, and you don't own them. You are nothing. The figure roared, a cacophony of screams blurring together into one sound, a desperate plea for survival. But Amelia didn't waver. I release you, she shouted again, not just at the figure, but at the memories that haunted her. You will not control my future. As the light surged, it poured into the very essence of the shadows. The anguished faces twisted in the wake of her declaration, and one by one, they began to crystallize into glimpses of peace. She could see them, her brother, her friend, each face softening, the pain retreating as if releasing its hold on her heart. Forgive, she whispered, letting that single word dance through the torrent of emotion. In an explosive burst of brilliance, the shadows shattered, splintering into fragments like glass breaking. The figure, shrieking out in enraged agony, began to dissolve, fading into nothingness while the library swirled with light and warmth. This is only the beginning, it yelled, but Amelia felt the truth echoing deeper now. The past would always be with her, but it would no longer define her path. As the storm of darkness subsided, the air grew rich with silence. The library transformed, light flooding through, illuminating the forgotten corners where despair once lingered. Amelia stood tall amidst the remnants of the storm, the echoes of the past slowly settling into soft whispers. Is it over? She wondered aloud, looking around at the once ominous room. It felt different now, familiar, safe. The shadows had retreated, but she understood that remnants of their presence would forever linger. But I can face them now, I can live. Taking her first confident step forward, she found herself filled with warmth. Uncertainty still accompanied her, but the shadows were no longer her adversaries, rather, they were an integral part of her story, filled with both pain and resilience. As she turned to leave the library, a sudden gust of wind wrapped around her, and for a brief moment, she thought she heard a soft voice whispering, "Thank you." Amelia paused, a smile breaking through her tears. "You're welcome," she murmured, turning her back on the cavernous shadows. With a heavy heart yet a lightened spirit, she walked out into the world waiting beyond the library doors, ready to embrace the future and the light it promised. The shadows would return, no doubt, but with strength gathered in love and hope, she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the gentle breeze carried her forward, Amelia turned her face to the sun, finally free from the chains of accountability placed upon her by the darkness she had known. She understood now light and dark coexisted, and within that balance, she would find her true self. But as she took her steps into the brand new day, another storm was brewing, not of shadows, but of new stories to uncover, new connections to explore, and new challenges that came with accepting her full self and her place within the world. The past whispered in her ear, but she quietly answered, "I hear you. I embrace you. And now, I will choose the light." With that, Amelia unlocked her potential and ventured forward, a determined heroine navigating a world renewed. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Your support makes all the difference. Show you're a true fan.